Experience podcast, beginning with episode 1954, where Joe Rogan shares his theory on the afterlife.
The theory that many people have is that death opens up a chemical gateway in the mind, and that chemical gateway takes whatever the soul is, whatever consciousness is, and transports it into this new realm. It allows you, your conscious mind, to access this new realm, which is available to you upon death. And so a lot of the ancient cultures that did ayahuasca and mushrooms, they would talk about this realm as being like a well of souls, that you encounter disembodied life forms, disembodied spirits. And this has been, it's been a staple of so many religions. There's so many religions that talk about the afterlife. I mean,
so when you die, it's some type of spirit or realm that opens up to you, like life after death type of thing.
I get that you would want to come up with something like that just because you wanted to have some sort of a reason to keep going with a rational mind when you're dealing with this.
Exactly, that's the thing. Like these type of theories, like it's always like something like people are making something up to keep going, but that doesn't eliminate that it doesn't make sense, if that makes sense.
Existential angst of a temporary existence, and one day you're just going to be worm food. What's the point of it all? Why don't I end it now? It's too much. Life is to live is to suffer. No, there's something waiting for you when it's over.
On episode 1107,
I mean, just to say something on that topic before it speeds through, because they kind of going through fast, but yeah, that shit is crazy. Like, I would want to believe there's something, even though if that might sound crazy to y'all, it's an option. It's an option. The Bible, I feel like, is just not just the answer. Like, I don't know.
Joe Rogan is absolutely shocked by this crazy Hitler theory.
Because a lot of people are like, finding Hitler, get the fuck out of here. They found Hitler, he died.
Yeah, I mean,
not really.
We don't know.
Right.
That's. I mean, this isn't like Ancient Aliens. This is they declassified a bunch of documents. They both the Israelis, the British, and the Germans and Americans in the past 20 years have been consistently declassifying documents, and there were a bunch of specifically FBI documents that we were spending millions and millions of dollars actively searching for Hitler after the war, as was like millions of dollars. Like Hoover was like, no, send more FBI.
They make it seem like an alien thing when they're dealing with Hitler and shit. So I'd be confused what they be saying about this guy.
FBI agents to South America, to North Africa, go to the Canary Islands, go to Spain, trying to find out where this guy went. The Russians got the body and they got his skull. And when they brought it back to Moscow, nobody has ever been able to independently verify who and what this body is. They let one genetic test occur, and the body with the bullet holes that they said was Hitler, and have said, and that's the narrative, that's the story, that's all the eyewitness accounts that are even in the vicinity of collaborating with each other, and corroborating each other's testimony. Like the closest version, because none of it seems to be very accurate, is that, okay, here's Hitler's skull.
There's no like fucking evidence for real. Like,
and when they did the genetic testing, it's that of a 35-year-old woman. So they're like, oh, well, this isn't Hitler. So what you had in South America, both Chile and Argentina back-to-back had fascist regimes. You had Perón, who was part of the Nazi party starting all the way back into the mid-30s. He's the president of Argentina. So the Red Cross, there was about 3 different rat lines that guys were able to successfully get out of Europe into South America. And there's no question that we're talking thousands, if not tens of thousands of high-ranking Nazis made it there.
Tens of thousands?
Tens of thousands. And I'm not talking like little soldiers. I'm talking high-ranking Nazis. But what you got in South America were isolated German-only communities. You could go into Bariloche, Argentina, and I'd be like, "Buenos dias, amigos," and they're like, "Guten Morgen." I'm like, "Oh, Yeah, I meant good morning. Yeah, sorry. It's 2017, right? I thought we spoke Spanish here.
So in 2017, you were there and they were speaking German.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, I don't look very.
Too educated on that
I might
type
look
of
more
stuff.
European than I
Right.
do. So it's just them seeing me walking down the street and be like,
Wow.
yeah. And there's tons of communities. I mean, if you go to Colonia Dignidad, which is now called Villa Bavaria, it is only German.
Whoa.
In the center of Chile, in the mountains of Chile. Like there's no Spanish being spoken there. It is exclusively German.
And these are the descendants of Nazis.
Powerful Nazis.
Holy shit. Are there any legitimate eyewitness accounts of Hitler in South America?
Absolutely, potentially.
Whoa.
Yep, eyewitness accounts. I saw him get off a boat. I saw him meet here. And if it was just some person saying it, it's almost meaningless.
Right.
But if you look at the context of who this person is, the wealth that they have that they shouldn't have, like, can you explain how you got so rich in 2 generations? You know, like, okay, your grandpa got here from Germany in 1946. That's weird. And he's on a legitimate visa with an Argentinian passport. Also weird. And now he's a war refugee that's now worth millions of dollars. How does this work?
On episode 1897, Graham Hancock shares his theory that Antarctica on ancient maps is evidence for advanced civilizations.
Yeah.
One of the things I
I've
find
heard this
most
before, too.
striking is the presence of Antarctica on ancient maps.
Yeah, I've heard like Antarctica, like it's like a little thing where Antarctica was on the map, like the original maps. Like Antarctica is on there, but then there's some history that's leading up that you will see some maps where Antarctica is not there, and like we discovered it later on when it was on maps later back in the day, but we kind of like took it off, put it back on type thing, something like that.
Because we didn't discover it until 1820, and yet it's on maps drawn in the 1500s with great detail, which
See?
again were based on much older source maps that have now been lost to us. Astonishing thing is the so-called Pinkerton World Map. I don't know if you can find it, Jamie. Drawn, I think, in 1813 or 1818, based on the latest exploration data at that time. And where Antarctica is, yeah, that one, keep going right. It just shows a hole where Antarctica is.
Nothing. See, there's
Because it was an honest map. Nobody had
Right.
found it by then. But if you go back to, for example, the Wolsey-Wooler World Map drawn in 1530 or thereabouts, you find Antarctica is present. That map shows Antarctica exactly.
I just explained what I've learned. The 15 something, and it's on that map. And then later, the later map is on there, but the most recent map, Antarctica, is on. Like, what? How?
Where it should be, and it shows it. There we go, Antarctica at the tip of South America, just south of South Africa.
And what did they call it back then?
Well, they call it the Southern Land, and it's larger than it is today. But it was larger than it is today during the Ice Age. Antarctica was a much bigger. Now, what the fuck is it doing on a map drawn in the 1500s, which we know was based on older source maps when nobody
But then
knew it existed in the
most recent maps is
1500s?
not there.
To me, the obvious answer is we are dealing with the fingerprints of a lost civilization that mapped the world and that left evidence of that mapping, which ancient map makers found and used and incorporated into their maps. These maps can be very confusing because they were trying to mix exploration data from their own period with data from the older maps. But when you look at these maps in depth, they're very, very intriguing.
On episode 1928, Jimmy Corsetti shares his theory about Adam and Eve and the magnetic poles.
But the Adam and Eve story, the theory of that is that it happens in cycles of 6,500 years, and that it's a 90-degree flip, but 6 days later, or on the 7th day, it
What would the poles of the Earth have to do with Adam and Eve? That's interesting.
corrects itself.
The planet flips, not just
correct. It's a planet flip 90 degree, and that because of it, the Earth essentially does a standstill. The sun will basically stay in the same spot, causing heating like we've never experienced, and that the wind and the waters continue with their momentum, because essentially the wind travels at approximately 1,000 miles an hour at the equator. So the theory is that when that event happens, it's going to be cataclysmic. And here's the wild thing, is that in that document it says a continental-sized tsunami being 2 miles high. Well, I showed you the mcoy volcano in Africa, in the Sahara, which is at 11,300 feet, that has salt as well as evidence of gastropods, sea life.
That's 2 miles high.
Yes. And I'm like, it would make a lot of sense. Like, if you look at the Bible and involving like Revelations, and it's saying like
6 days.
6 days, on the seventh day, God rested. In that document, it says 6 days things start simmering down a bit, and by day 7 things.
See, I always say things in the Bible are not real, but see, to make sense, well, real to an extent to like guide you and to be a better person in life. But you see how he names things? Like, that's what I'm learning about the Bible. Like, if there's something like dramatic in nature, like some dramatic nature stuff that happened in the world, and they couldn't explain it then, it's like now we get the science of it, like what happened. We doing history, we're matching things up, and it's like, oh, this hurricane or this tsunami was so big this period of time, but it's also mentioned in the Bible like as some godly thing, but it could have been a natural disaster type thing. That's
starting over new.
Beginning with Joe Rogan's MMA show number 12, Joe Rogan explains his conspiracy that the US moon landing was fake.
The press conference from 1969 when they returned from the moon is one of the most cryptic, weird things you'll ever see. These guys look like they just stole something and they're being questioned. I've never seen a video where people look like they're more full of shit than that video of the press conference from 1969. It's weird, man. It's weird. They're like fidgety and looking.
The thing is, again, these are one of those topics I ain't never really pay attention to. Moon landing. I hear a lot of weird things about the moon, so that's why I'm just like, at this point, I don't know. Because there's a scientist that went on Joe Rogan that said something like, even where we went to in space, like even, because I believe we've been to space, the atmosphere of it. But what he said is that's not even space. Like where we went to, like in space, not the moon, but space, that's not even the limit of space. So it's like, if that's true, then how hard would it have been to go to the moon, or if we really did? Like, I don't know.
Nervous, like they're getting away with something.
Oh, I hate
Hey,
that.
Vinny, where'd you get that shirt?
A sticker wheel. What do you think I got?
Do it then.
They might have done it. They might have been forced to say some things that they didn't want to say, and that could be part of it.
Absolutely.
You know, they could have done it. But there's a lot of weirdness with the moon landing.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you wanted to have
really
like a conspiracy to wrap your head around that's exciting, it's one of the best ones.
Really, but who benefits from it?
The United States government did, because it showed military superiority over the Russians. We were able to do that.
Sure.
It also, you know, it was the Nixon administration. People were just flat out full of shit.
Well, yeah.
I mean, they were just lying to people left and right back then.
That's government, though.
Yeah, but even more so then, because it was unchecked. There was no media.
Social media.
Yeah, there was nothing that would expose them for this.
So times
and
a little
this
different.
stuff, they would air it on TV once in 1969. You never see it again unless you watched it on film. There was no YouTube.
Yeah, I promise you. And if they see, that's why now it's making me think we didn't land on the moon. Because I promise you, we'd have called bullshit a bullshit. We'd have called bullshit if it was now, because we would have been able to do a lot of research. So
Go back and watch the astronauts on trampolines video.
The flat Earth
watch
thing
this.
is ridiculous.
Watch this. And like their feet are hidden. Look at this. Watch these guys bounce up in the air. It's like they're on some sort of wire, like they're being yanked up into the air.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what the fuck are they doing? And they're playing, like falling down, and It's very weird. But it could have been that they were really on the moon and these guys were fucking cowboys and yahoos and they wanted to bounce around. But there's videos of the flag moving in a non-existent breeze, which is weird too. And they try to make some logical explanations for why the flag could be moving in a vacuum, and some of it makes sense. But
I'm gonna start saying, yeah, all you do is wear Yahoo and bounce around.
some of it doesn't. Like the wires one is weird. If you watch them fall down, like go to that one right there, Jamie. It might not have been real footage. What they might have done is use some test footage, like right there, Jamie, right there. Let it go. Like homeboy falls down, and then it looks like he gets yanked back up. Look at this. Whoops.
Oh, he did not. That's
Like,
not him standing up.
Yeah, what is this?
On episode number 1.
Wow, that does look like something. Hold on. He just bounces up like.
Been real footage. What they might have done is use some test footage, like right there, Jamie, right there. Let it go. Like homeboy falls down, and then it looks like he gets yanked back up. Look at this. Whoops.
Oh, he did not. That's
Like,
not
what is
him
that?
standing up.
Yeah, what is this?
Yeah, that dude looked kind of weird how he bounced up like something drug him back up instead of like gravity slowly bring him up as space say. Yeah, that was a little.
On episode number 1308,
Ooh,
Joe
9/11.
Rogan explains his conspiracy that 9/11 was an
9/11.
inside job.
You want to hear another conspiracy theory?
I love 9/11 things because, hey, yo, let me say this though. I fuck with Joe Rogan, Gilbert Arenas, and Shady McCoy. Them three podcasters, I fuck with them. Like, Joe Rogan is obviously a white man, but that don't matter. But Shady and Gil, they have my like energy and how my personality is on a podcast or anything like this. But Joe Rogan thinks as deep as I do. So them three, I fuck with them.
That you probably don't know, it's going to blow your mind.
Let's do it.
The day before 9/11, the day before the attacks, Rumsfeld gave a press conference where he talked about trillions of dollars missing. Then a plane slams into the very part of the building where they were doing the accounting, blows up half the fucking building in the Pentagon, blows up a wall. Donald Rumsfeld was on.
See, yo, I don't even know who Don's Rumsfeld or any of that shit is, and I'm gonna learn about it, but that's what I'm saying. I just watched a movie called The Black Demon or some shit like that, and I think they said it was based on a Mexican story or some shit like that, and basically it was about a demon shark, a megalodon, but ignore that for a second. It was about a contractor for an oil rig where a white guy, you know, he kind of was signing off on a bad oil rig, even though it was bound for destruction for this whole Mexican area. But he always signed off on it. It was safe, 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 but it was unsafe for real. But it was killing off people in the, you know, the environment, whatever the case may be. But them white people, fuck it. Them white people, they for the government, the secret agent people, whatever, they tricked them in going over there to like physically check on the place instead of signing off. And they knew they did something illegally wrong, but to cover their own ass, they had to make him physically go to the rig, and they had little explosives to kill him because the rig was already fucked up. So when it blows up, it kills him, and that's the scapegoat to be like, all right, boom, we ain't pay attention to this rig. It destroyed a part of Mexico, and it was on him. He signed off on it, and he went to check it, and he blew it up. But the secret people set it up to kill him like that. So this type of shit, I be believing it. Like for 9/11, it's something I don't even know why they would do something so dramatic with 9/11 like that too. I don't know.
Was it the White House lawn?
According to some estimates, we can.
But them white people, well, the secret people do shit like that, like to cover their own ass and all that, money gone, and then all of a sudden some buildings fly down and all these planes. A homeless guy in Afghanistan is in a hole orchestrating, but it makes sense too at the same time.
cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
2.3.
Okay, now, again, somebody told you that literally, like right before 9/11 happened, they said they couldn't track $2.3 trillion. No, that didn't happen. That did not happen, but it did happen.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so think about what Kennedy said. Think about what you saw when you saw that Vice movie where Dick Cheney, who was the CEO of Halliburton, becomes a vice president and gets billions of dollars in no-bid contracts. Now think about what we just saw with Donald Rumsfeld saying they couldn't find $2.3 trillion. I don't know where it went. I don't know. It seems like we should have had it. So like, we'll keep looking. Oh no, the spot where we looked just blew up.
Oh my god. What the
Find out
hell?
if that's true. If it was the
spot we were just looking just happened so to blow up. See, it be them things like we seen too many movies. We seen too much evidence in real life of these. I don't even want to call them white people, but yeah, whatever, secret aid, whatever, these secret people, I'm gonna call them secret people. They do something to cover their ass in a dramatic way.
accounting office, because this is what I love to say it because it sounds good, but let's make sure it's true that part blew up. But either way, that he did say that, and then they did get hit by a plane a couple of days later.
It's unbelievable.
It's so crazy. And no one talks about that $1 trillion.
On episode 1314, Joe Rogan shares his infinite universe theory.
And then there's hundreds of billions of galaxies. So the idea that we're the only one. Not only that, Neil deGrasse Tyson explained this to me, because this is a mind fuck and a half, that the universe is so big that not only is there another you out there.
Hey, this is my topic. So, alternate universes and all that shit, because you know I'm a Marvel guy. Fuck DC. But yeah, I'm a Marvel guy. I have respect for DC, but Marvel's better. We're putting y'all on. That's another story. But multi-universes, I believe it.
That has done everything exactly as you've done. To every pause, like that pause, every pause, down to the second.
Yeah.
An infinite number of times.
Yeah, you're talking, what is it called? The infinite, in an infinite universes, there's this exact.
Yes. I believe it. Like who I am today, right? So who I am today, I could be like in the next universe, I'm a doctor. The next universe, I'm a fucking lawyer. The next universe, I am a fucking lifeguard. Or the next me, I've robbed a bank before. The other me, I have fucking was a millionaire. The other me, I was the one who discovered AIDS. The next me, I was president before. Like that's how multi-universes work, and I feel like there may be infinite variants. Look at up variants of us, but they're different, but same person.
Exact conversation happening
Yes.
with people look exactly like that, because infinity implies that there could be a million.
Infinite variations. There's one where you get up
I just said variants, but he said variations, but variants.
right now and you have to take a piss.
Right,
and
right.
you run out of the room.
Well, Charlemagne's there, you're here, I'm there.
There's one where you get up and you're mad that we don't believe you that you saw Bigfoot or something. You know, that kind of shit.
Yeah.
The idea that when you think of infinity,
Right.
we think about it as being really big. It's not. It's impossible to put in your head.
Yeah.
The infinite universes, like the size of the universe.
That's why when you discuss these things with people, you might have people that are on like the same outboxing thinking like you, and I kind of let it marinate and it makes sense. But some people, they can't register. And I'm not saying like they're dumb or they're not woke, because I hate being a woke person trying to be the spokesperson of it, because I don't like that. Like people use that word to like attack now. Like you're not woke, so you're dumb. Wake up, you idiot. No, I don't. But people just don't register things yet until like enough information is brought to them. Because because it's not that this shit don't make sense. I mean, shit. If we believe multi-universes, how dare you blame us and you believe in the Bible? That's another discussion.
14 billion light years apart, infinite numbers of those. Not only that, they think that inside every galaxy is a supermassive black hole, and inside that black hole may be another universe with hundreds of billions of galaxies.
See, he's going too far thinking about that shit. More galaxies, more Yo, that's too much and a scary thought.
With hundreds of billions of black holes. Inside each one of those, hundreds of billions of galaxies, hundreds of billions of black holes, that it's fractal, and that it's impossible for you to even conceive.
On episode number 1852, guest Sam Tripoli shares his theory that Ben Franklin was doing experiments on human bodies.
Dude, you ever hear about what Ben Franklin...
I've heard that before. I've heard he was like a Hitler motherfucker. Like, I heard he did do like human experiments. I don't know what type, but I've heard
Franklin was... Okay, that's a different story, but...
What did he do?
You never heard that, like, what he was found in it, they found in his house?
No.
Like, tons of bodies, bro.
What?
Ben Franklin, they found tons of bodies in his...
Ben Franklin was a serial killer?
No, he was like...
Why were they so interested in that shit? See, that shows you how the human imagination or the thought product, like, they didn't have movies like us back in the day and crazy ideas of movies. So what, like, look at the mind back then. Like, what were you so curious about of killing people and experimenting?
Doing some weird shit, dude. Bodies.
Like experimenting with bodies?
Yeah.
Is this real?
Everything I say.
Was Ben Franklin's basement filled with skeletons? Repairs on Franklin's old...
Come on, bro.
This
I must
game,
gotta pay for the no advertisement shit.
you're not ready for.
Keep doing that.
London house turned up 1,200 pieces of bone from at least 15 people. Holy shit. For nearly 2 decades. By the way, this is from the Smithsonian. This is not some wacky conspiracy
This ain't SamTripoli.com.
Yeah. For nearly 2 decades leading up to the signing of the...
See, that's another thing. You gotta take some sources for his credit. If they saying the Smithsonian, fuck they lying for? Fuck, why they got lie for? So when you tell people these things, that's why I don't believe in everything. But some of these sources, you got to give them their credit. They some real live companies, some real live places like that are credible. Like
Declaration of Independence, Benjamin Franklin lived in London in a house on 36 Craven Street. In 1776, Franklin left his English home to come back to America. More than 200 years later, 15 bodies were found in the basement, buried in a secret windowless room beneath the garden. In 1998, conservationists were doing repairs on 36 Craven, looking to turn Franklin's old haunt into a museum. From a 1 meter wide, 1 meter deep pit, over 1,200 pieces of bone were retrieved. Remnants of more than a dozen bodies, said Benjamin Franklin's house. 6 were children. Forensic investigation showed that the bones dated to Franklin's day. Holy shit. The most plausible explanation is not mass murder, but an anatomy school run by Benjamin's young friend and protege, William.
Can't you like do tests on like, well, not tests, but look at the bones and see if they were like tampered or, you know, you can tell if shit has been tested on or like weird markings or something. What the
William Hewson. Oh, just an anatomy school.
Yeah, and we're just going to bury them downstairs.
Note to add in another article about this.
Oh boy.
It's just
Franklin's history as a Mason was one of the historian's initial points of inquiry. Though shrouded in secrecy, Masonic rituals have dark, known undercurrents which have at times gone horribly wrong. For example, in a 2004 initiation ceremony, a new member was accidentally shot by a member who meant to fire an empty gun but instead fired a loaded one. So they fake shot at each other?
Yeah.
But when historians dug deeper into what was going on in the Franklin home during the years the bones dated back to, they discovered the real culprit behind the bones is one of William Houston, the medical student. Yeah, they're basically saying the same thing.
crazy, right?
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's theory on time travel.
That was the theory.
I don't think time traveling is real. I don't I don't even think, even if we played with time traveling, I don't even think we got close to that. Because if we got anything on time traveling, I think that would answer aliens. Because how the fuck would we come up with anything like time travel in a human like world that we live in? I don't think we have technology to even entertain time travel. So when people even that means what I believe. If time traveling is real, like, do you know how much that fucks up everything in the world that we believe in today if we can time travel? Oh.
Theory that Terrence McKenna had to the thing that's going to change the universe is that one day someone's going to invent a time machine, and that when they invent a time machine, all time ceases to become linear. So you think if you have a time machine, well, I'll just go back to the time where they were making the pyramids and I'll watch them do it. That's not what it works like. What he was saying, you can't travel where there are no roads. So once a road gets built, then you can travel. So once a time machine gets invented, then anyone from the invention of the time machine forward to forever can come back to that moment and can go to any point in time from that moment to the end of time. So all time ceases to be linear. So there's no like tomorrow will be Wednesday and the next day will be Thursday. No. It's everything happens everywhere all at once. So people can travel back and forth through time. You can never own anything because someone could just travel through time and take it away from you when you weren't looking. Like as time travel gets more and more sophisticated, you can go back and forth in time while you're talking to people. If you don't like what you said, you could rewind and start all over again. If you're in an argument with your wife, you can go to the library and get information and come back and go, actually, Herodotus once said, and then bam, your wife thinks you're the smartest guy in the world. Like this, but there would be no normal life anymore. It would
Exactly, like that's what I'm saying. Like if it was real, like, because I was kind of getting lost on what he was trying to describe, but I guess from what I got from it, yeah, like if that was real, if time traveling was real, no, like a lot of things will be more fucked up than what it is today if it was real. Because once the one motherfucker got a hold of it, and if it's some secret government type shit, they'd have been fucking us right now. But that's another.
the world itself would be completely unrecognizable because time would mean nothing. You'd be able to travel back and forth through time.
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1928, YouTuber and investigator Jimmy Corsetti shares his theory about the lost city of Atlantis.
There's a location.
I love this one too. Atlantis. I believe there was Atlantis, and I believe the Atlanteans, they were people of all kind. I don't think they were one people from what I've learned from it. They're not people from all one kind. It was like a mixed generation of people. And Atlanteans, yes, in comic books and all that craziness, yes, they say they lived underwater. No. Look, we're not talking about people living underwater, but a water-like atmosphere.
In the Western Sahara Desert of Mauritania called the Rishat structure. It's also commonly referred to as the Eye of the Sahara. It is a site that most people have never seen or heard of before, which is truly peculiar because it's so spectacular. It's a site that astronauts typically use to reference from space. It is a geological feature that is said to be volcanic in nature. And what's so spectacular about this is that it just so happens to match more than a dozen striking similarities to what Plato.
And don't let like images, like how small it is, fuck your brain up and like, oh, what? That doesn't look like shit. Yo, this imagery is from fucking like space or something. So you gotta understand, this is really big. This is a really big circle ring place.
Plato had described as the lost ancient capital city of Atlantis. Plato had described Atlantis as being the capital. Let me just mention that because it was an empire said to be made up of 10 kingdoms. And what I'm focusing on is the lost capital city, which was said to be made up of concentric circles, 3 of water, 2 of land, which matches the Richat structure.
Circles. It was surrounded like rings of water, like one outer thing, land, inner water, inner land, inner water, inner land.
It also is said to have an opening to the sea at the south, and if you look at it from satellite imagery, you can clearly see that water had ran through it. And furthermore, it was said to have mountains to the north, and you just so happen to have mountains called the Atlas mountain chain, which Atlas was said to be the very first king of Atlantis. And what's interesting is that the very first known king of Mauritania, which is where the Richat structure is located, is also, their very first known king was also named Atlas. And though
that sounds like a name us black people would name our children. Atlantis. What was it? I don't even remember. What was it?
is located is also, their very first known king was also named Atlas. And though I'm not saying that that's the same individual, but what we do today is we pass down names, right? Like people like, oh, my dad's name's John, and so is my son. And so it's another striking similarity, but it goes further than that. Like there's geological similarities, such as the fact that Atlantis was said to be made up of red, black, and white color stone, which is another similarity you see at the Richat structure. It was said to have an abundance of gold and that the outer walls were lined with it. And it turns out that Mauritania is loaded with gold, and not only that, the richest person ever known to.
That was the name, Mauritania. That sounds like one of us naming our children. My fault, I'm playing.
Exists in all of mankind is Mansa Musa of the Mali Empire, which consisted partly of modern-day Mauritania. And he was so rich from gold that he would be richer than Elon Musk and like Bezos combined almost.
Elon Musk.
Like many.
Richer than Elon Musk. That's our rich nigga right there. So
unfathomable amount of billions of dollars. So that's another similarity.
What year was this?
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1266, war reporter Ben Anderson talks about a conspiracy theory around white helmets.
Right now, there are parallel universes right now that exist on things that you would have thought everyone can accept as a basic fact.
Like what?
You know, Syria.
Yeah.
You know, the white helmets. There are some fairly serious people saying the white helmets are, you know, some kind of media front for Al Qaeda or Al Nusra.
Would you explain the white helmets for people?
So when there's a
the fuck are white helmets? What is white helmet?
bombing and a building collapses, they go in and drag people out and get them medical attention as quick as possible.
And people think that they're somehow or another involved in it. They're a front.
Yeah, and the footage is faked in order to drum up sympathy for the rebel held.
I don't know what white helmets are. This is a theory that I don't understand. I don't.
Areas. I mean, I've heard, you know, serious people say that.
Serious people.
Yeah, not loons on Facebook. I've heard, you know,
like journalists or
yeah.
You wouldn't.
He said loons on Facebook.
Be able to really get, like, I know people that have gone to Venezuela and they come back and they go, I don't know what the fuck is going on over there. I don't know who to believe. I don't understand it. Venezuela is a very strange one. And I get messages all the time. And, you know, I've had Abby Martin who goes over there and she has one take on it. And I have other people that I talk to that have a different take on it. And I do not know. I don't know who to believe. And I think you'd have to go over there and you'd have to spend a lot of time to try to figure this out. And it would have to be the entire focus of your life to really try to parse it out.
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1339, Joe Rogan and Everlast go deep into parallel universe theories.
What about this? What if
parallel universes again? I'm telling you, it's a hot topic.
Every time you went to sleep and you woke up, you passed into a nearby and very similar universe.
Whoa, and wow, I like that because I never thought about that. So when you fall asleep, like I don't know what Joe Rogan is about to say or talk about with this guy, but I'm going to take a guess what he's saying. When you fall asleep and you have a dream with you in it, that is some type of version of what's happening to you. Even if you die or fighting or something, there's just some type of connection to that.
but not quite the same. And depending upon your choices and how you live your life, it's how you wake up and what new one you pop into on the other side. And everyone's just a little bit different. The whole world changes just a little bit each time you make a decision, one way or another. Everything changes when you wake up. You think the world is static, because it is when you're awake.
Whoa, see, what the fuck? It's like every time, what he's saying is like every time we go to sleep, we wake up and like everybody's different. Because I don't know, like the decisions and stuff he's saying. See, that's scary. Like, I don't like thinking that deep. Like, that's crazy.
You have no fucking idea what's happening while you're asleep. And when you wake up again, you have this foggy recollection of the past. And that.
That's crazy. See, yeah, you do. Like, do you ever wake up from a dream and it's like you know what happened, but you can't regulate everything that happened, but you know it, but you can't per se out your mouth. Like even when I've said done this so many times where I'm trying to describe a dream, but then I'm just like forgetting about everything. But I know it's like I know it. It's something happened. Like I just can't go back to it. I just had the dream.
That's what you're going by. You're going by every morning waking up with a foggy recollection of the past. That's what you're doing, and you're assuming that nothing's changed and everything's static, and while you were asleep for 8 hours, nothing weird happened. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You have no idea. You're dreaming. You're having crazy fantasies and shit. Weird stuff is happening. You're fucking mermaids. You're flying.
I'm not crazy, bro. So I'm not a crazy person. I'm the most realistic person you could meet. That's why I could make sense out of it for me. I'm not crazy. I don't believe in fucking fairies with wings and fucking dramatic things. Like these are real things to think about, though.
Flying through the air on a helicopter. You know, weird things happen when you're dreaming. What is all that about? We don't even know. We have no idea what that is. That soup of possibilities that's fucking
Exactly. Where are these possibilities coming from in your brain? Like, you don't even think about that shit on your normal day. So where is that coming from?
swirling around in between your ears while you're snoring up a storm, and then boom, you wake up. Are you sure those memories are real?
I love that fucking question. That's the thing. If you see anybody, you can be a doubter. Cool. You believe what you want to believe. But you know what one question you can always ask? Are you sure? Are you sure? Because a lot of motherfuckers just grab the Bible and run. I'm not just grabbing a Bible and run. I'm trying to make sense. But I believe in somebody made us. But I'm trying to make sense.
Are you sure that this isn't a whole completely new universe you're living in today?
Or assimilation.
Or simulation.
On a Joe Rogan podcast from February 17th, 2019, Eddie Bravo shares his crazy conspiracy about space and one world government.
The only way to make a one world government work is to have the people embrace it. They have to want it because nobody wants it. So the trick is to make people want it, to embrace it. There's only one way. The only way. And they've known this forever. The Vatican knew this. The Vatican, the Pope wanted to rule the world. They all knew it, but they couldn't do it. They all knew it, but they knew one way, but there's no way how they're going to pull it off. What's the one way, man? The only way is if there was some extraterrestrial threat from up above us. That would be.
That's look, I'm starting to not. I have an up and down thing about aliens, up and down thing, and I'm not talking about these gray big head aliens with black eyes. No, I think that's far of it's made up. They could look just like us. I had a conversation with my man Sonny. He don't even really believe in that shit. He don't even touch that shit. He says, quote unquote, like I'm here, like I handle whatever's just in front of me type shit, like I'm here. But what I'm saying is, no, he made this comment and said they could look like, he entertained it because I asked him, what if they look like us? And that would make the most sense because Space, my conversation with space can go on for days. So, not to get in too deep, space is too continuous for us to just be here. Now, if we are the only people in this universe, this earth, this fucking space continuous ass place, that question is bigger than God himself. If you think about it.
Be the only way to have everyone embrace the one world government. They all knew that for years.
But it didn't work
That's
so
the
far.
plan. They could never
It's a
make it
shitty plan,
work.
though.
They didn't have the technology 500 years ago. The Vatican knew about it. They wanted it. And you go to the Vatican, you see paintings of like UFOs with aliens in them. And back when I used to believe in UFOs, but before I figured out that
That's the thing. I didn't believe in UFOs back then. I believe them more now than back then.
UFOs they want us to believe in UFOs. They're preparing us for a fake alien invasion. That's always been the plan. A one world government. The only way to do it is to get us to embrace it. And the only way to embrace it is from an alien attack. Ronald Reagan talked about it many times at the UN, CFR. He talked about it because wouldn't it make, he looked at all the leaders of the nation, of the world, and said, wouldn't it make our lives easier if we just had some kind of extraterrestrial threat?
On Joe Rogan Experience number 1284, Graham Hancock shares his theory about ancient civilizations.
Is above the King's Chamber.
Yeah, ancient civilization, I already know where they're headed. I know they're going to the fucking pyramids because that's the only motherfucking thing in the world. The only thing in the world, well, I ain't gonna say the only, but the number one, number two, number three thing that we humanly wonder, how the fuck did they build the fucking pyramids? Now, as a younger kid, or probably y'all right now, y'all probably thinking, like when you think of the pyramids, y'all not even, I promise you, y'all are not thinking about how big those blocks are. Y'all are not thinking about that. Because even me, just when I used to just think about a pyramid, I'm thinking they're like little blocks that just ba 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 ba. No, these blocks are big as fuck. They're bigger than us. Every block, perfectly shaved. The tools we have, if we was to build a fucking pyramid, it wouldn't look like that. It would be incompetent. It would look crazy. It would fall. And they had technology.
In the Great Pyramid are 5 further chambers. And these chambers are roofed and floored with granite beams that weigh about 70 tons each. And there are hundreds of them. And
Again, he touched on what I just said. 70 tons each block. I don't care how much slave blood you got in you. You ain't dragging that motherfucker with no rope, or you not grabbing a whole 100 motherfucking slaves and pushing a 70-ton brick by brick. I built this shit. No, fuck no.
these 70-ton granite beams, which to put in context, a 70-ton beam is equivalent in weight to 35 large SUVs. These 70-ton granite beams have been elevated to a height of more than 350 feet above the ground and carefully and precisely placed in position. It is very hard for archaeologists to explain how that was done using purely leverage and mechanical advantage. You can say, oh, perhaps they built a ramp and hauled the stones up the ramp. But then you have to
how many slaves, if they built a ramp, how many slaves you had to have to hold a 70,000 pound block?
Front basic laws of physics. You can't haul a stone weighing tens of tons up a slope that exceeds 10 degrees. Then you start doing the calculation. How long a ramp do I need with a 10-degree slope to get to
To get to the fucking tip of the fucking pyramid? Impossible.
350 feet above the ground? And the answer is you need a fucking long ramp, which should still be there, because it couldn't have been a sand ramp.
Right. So they did have a ramp, wouldn't the ramp still be laying the fuck around the pyramid or something? It ain't. It's not.
Would have collapsed under the weight of those stones. It had to be as massive as the pyramid itself. So this begins to seem like an absurd idea, the idea that is foisted on us by archaeology. Maybe the idea that they regard as absurd, namely that psychic powers were cultivated by ancient civilizations, that they could use powers of the human mind that we have allowed to lapse.